Hey there folks, welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art and culture, and this is Billboard Breakdown. Well, I called it last week, and now here it is. Folks, this is the week of the Weeknd, because at this very moment, every single song from his album Starboy either entered, re-entered, or rose up the Hot 100 this week. That's a total of 18 songs. What's all the more crazy is that he didn't encompass every single debut this week. Thank you so very much, Disney. And what concerns me more than anything is overexposure. That's one of the big factors that lies in the roots of how much I turned on Drake throughout the course of last year. So let's hope this doesn't hit the Weeknd as badly as I might expect. And as such, we have to start in our top 10, where unfortunately the Weeknd didn't quite dominate as much as he should have. And again, just like I predicted, Black Beatles by Ray Shrimmer and Gucci Mane held on to number 1. I'm as exasperated as anybody here. I wanted Starboy to go to number 1, but while it handily beat Black Beatles in airplay and on-demand streaming, it lost out on YouTube and got edged out on sales, which means that Black Beatles just barely held on to number 1. And if I'm gonna look for reasons why Starboy didn't snag that top spot, I'm inclined to say the radio, where it wavered all damn week. Given how long the song's been out, even the album release sales boost wouldn't be enough to push it much higher here. Now from there though, the rest of this list makes a fair amount of sense. Closer by the Chainsmokers featuring Halsey slipped down to number 3 because it started bleeding in airplay and streaming to match its losses in sales. Side to Side by Ariana Grande and Nicki Minaj recovered to number 4 on consistent airplay and strong YouTube, despite weakening sales in streaming. 24 Karat Magic by Bruno Mars slipped down to number 5. Even though it is something of a radio darling, it did slip a little bit on sales and it's never been strong on streaming. Juju on That Beat by Zayn McCall and Zay Hilfiger, though, had the opposite problem, slipping to number 6 because sales and airplay have been absolutely miserable, and it's actually starting to slip a bit on streaming too. Let Me Love You by DJ Snake and Justin Bieber recovered a little bit up to number 7 despite unsteady radio and awful sales, which is really all that it has at this point. This unfortunately means that Don't Wanna Know by Maroon 5 and Kendrick Lamar rose up to number 8 on sales and radio. Again, who in the nine hells is buying this empty streck? I will never know. Then you have Heathens by 21 Pilots getting hit hard at number 9 as it loses across the board. And to round it out, Broccoli by Drum featuring Lil Yachty clinging on to number 10 because even as it loses radio and sales, it's still pretty solvent on streaming. Now for songs that are a little bit less solvent, we need to consider our losers and dropouts. And here's the thing with a massive chart run like this, it's a purging process. And what gets hit worst are the songs that might have stuck around a little bit longer but are now getting muscled off. Gold by Kiara, Sucker for Pain from the Suicide Squad movie, Panda by Designer, Love by Tory Lanez, My Way by Calvin Harris, Ain't My Fault by Zara Larson, Move by Luke Bryan, Vice by Miranda Lambert, Key to the Streets by YFN Lukey with Migos in Trouble, all are gone. And I wouldn't expect to see a lot of them come back. And that's where we get to the losers, where we had 22 songs pushed back at least 10 slots. Okay, let's focus on the ones that might survive this a little bit first. Do You Mind by DJ Khaled and his crew are going back down to 37. It'll probably survive. This Town by Niall Horan down to 40. Mercy by Shawn Mendes to 50. Maybe Hand Clap by Fitz and the Tantrums down to 77. They had momentum going in. They might hold on when the Weeknd loses a bunch of songs late next week. Hell, Love Me Now by John Legend might have fallen to 53, but it'll probably rebound thanks to the album that just dropped. But this is a crippling blow for a lot of songs. Some, like Timmy Turner by Designer down to 62, Used to This by Future and Drake down to 54, One Night by Lil Yachty down to 75, Setting the World on Fire by Kenny Chesney and Pink down to 81, All We Know by the Chainsmokers and Phoebe Ryan down to 82, Fade by Kanye West Post Malone down to 96, and especially A Little More Summertime by Jason Aldean down to 87. These might not recover. Then there are the new arrivals that might just get stifled out early, like That's My Girl by Fifth Harmony down to 84, Chantage by Shakira and Maluma down to 90, or even Sneakin' by Drake and 21 Savage down to 66. And then we have all the rest. Sleep Without You by Brett Young down to 63, Too Much Sauce by DJ Esco, Future and Lil Uzi Vert hit down to 73, Middle of a Memory by Cole Swindle down to 74, Better Man by Little Big Town down to 80. Man, country had a bad week here. Look Alive by Ray Shrimmer hit hard to 94, What They Want by Russ down to 95, and finally Capsize by Friendship and Emily Warren down to 97. No way to tell with these songs, folks. This could get ugly come next week. But okay, all that's to be expected. What were the songs that came back or got even stronger? Well, pretty much what you would expect, namely that the only gain that was not from the Weeknd was Bad Things by Machine Gun Kelly and Camila Cabello, breaking the top 20 at 17. Mostly thanks to the video, I think. Lovely. Beyond that, the majority of the story is, of course, the Weeknd. With his collaboration with Daft Punk, I feel it coming, surging up to 22, and Party Monster roaring up to 16. Hell, thanks to the returning entries, False Alarm made a big comeback to 55. I don't know if the radio is ever gonna take to the song, but I gotta hope it picks up some traction. It's a fantastic song. Beyond that, the biggest story here in the returning entries is All I Want for Christmas by Mariah Carey is making its annual return to 23. But by this point, you almost expect it back here. It'll be interesting to see what other Christmas songs enter rotation in the next few weeks. But now, we got our list of new arrivals, and full warning to keep this as brief as possible, and because I already reviewed Starboy in detail over a week ago, I'm going to endeavor to keep this pretty brief. With that being said, we're going to start off with number 98, Make Me Cry by Noah Cyrus featuring Labrinth.
I never needed you like I do right now.
I never hated you like I do right now.
'Cause all you ever do is make me.
So, okay, does anybody remember Miley Cyrus? Anybody notice that after that disaster of an album she released last year, you've heard little to nothing from her? Did you know that she had a sister, and that said sister teamed up with producer Labrinth for her first ever single at age 16? Okay, all these rhetorical questions aside, I didn't really have high expectations for this, mostly because Noah Cyrus sounds like a huskier version of her sister with less intensity and stage presence, but even that is underplaying the bizarre mess that this song is. The lyrics are probably the least interesting element. Toxic love-hate relationship, we've seen this plenty of times this year, but the instrumentation is a disordered cacophony of random fragments that could have desperately used some cohesion. I'll put aside how instead of the word cry at the end of the hook we get a dripping sound effect, but when you throw in the blast of a steam train on the first verse that really comes out of nowhere against that drippy pattern of bass, the wonky flattened organ melody, and then that bridge with the screechy effects, the inner piano, the wonky breaking effects that lead to more weird organ leads, with all that musical punctuation, you might as well call it emoji the song. So no, I'm not really a fan of this, and not promising for Noah Cyrus going forward, so yeah, skip it. Number 93, We Know the Way by Opetaia Foa'i and Lin-Manuel Miranda. So, the other big story this week is the debut of songs from the new Disney movie Moana. Now, I wasn't really planning to see that movie. I had heard good things, but it didn't really seem to catch my interest, and nobody's requested it on Patreon. But like with Frozen ahead of it, we got a healthy number of songs breaking onto the Hot 100. Now, as someone who grew up in the Disney Renaissance, I tend to be pretty hard on some current Disney songs, but given this one picked up Lin-Manuel Miranda, was actually co-written by him, and I've actually been marathoning Hamilton probably more than I should have over the past couple days, I was predisposed to like this. And surprise, surprise, I actually do. Opetaia Foa'i and his backing choir taking more of the lead on the song against gentle acoustics and more textured percussion, and then we get Lin-Manuel's distinctive voice holding the next few verses together. If I were to comment deeper, well, I debate how distinctive the lyrics are in terms of their content. For while they got some good cadence and flow, I wouldn't say that there's much else that's all that distinctive in terms of the detail. We'll see what happens with the rest of these songs, but for now I'm intrigued to hear more. It's a decent track. Number 88, How Far I'll Go by Alessia Cara. So, okay, look, I like Alessia Cara probably more than most. Of the new pop stars that I've seen coming up in the past few years, she's probably one of the ones that has a chance to follow in Lord's wake when Lord inevitably goes straight back to the indie scene and never comes back. That said, I really don't envy Alessia Cara and her utterly thankless task of adapting the big movie song for the contemporary audience. Most people remember Idina Menzel's version of Let It Go, not Demi Lovato's. And a big problem with that is that pop producers decide to add in more modern pop flourishes to make it fit with the rest of radio, like a sparse, empty mix with watery guitars, heavier percussion, and a reverb-swallowed breakdown. At least the key change is preserved, which is pretty much the only point when the song actually comes alive for me, mostly courtesy of the flutes that feel completely drowned out behind the sandy beat and acoustic guitar. And that's ignoring that Alessia Cara doesn't really have a Disney voice. Her tone is naturally more textured and distinct, and while she can handle Lin-Manuel Miranda's writing cadence, I get the feeling she deserved better production here. It doesn't really flatter her all that well, which is pretty much the exact same thing I said about her debut album, so go figure. Number 85, Distraction by Kehlani. So now that Kehlani has a set release date for her debut album in early January, we officially got dropped into our standard single release schedule, with this being her second after a lackluster start that I think I remember was trying to copy Rihanna. I really don't remember or care about that song. This track thankfully doesn't take in that direction, and as such tends to be a little bit better, along with content where Kehlani's just looking for a hookup that's fun but not serious, you know, just a nice distraction. And it helps that the overall tone and vibe of the song kind of fits with that. It's brighter, more major chords, a little looser in the melody against the breezy rattling snares. But look, I can't overlook this. The production itself is pretty damn thin across the board. From the vocals to the pre-chorus and the hooks to the weedy tone driving the melody to the guitars to even the percussion. Sure, there is some deeper bass beat supporting it, but nothing with significant body. And while I hate to go there, it honestly sounds pretty damn cheap outside of some pluckier tones in the bridge. In other words, in the hands of better producers, I can see this arrangement working because it is a decent song, but not really here, unfortunately. Number 83, You're Welcome by Dwayne Johnson.
Welcome for the tides, the sun, the sky. Hey, it's okay, you're welcome. I'm just an ordinary demiguy.
The Rock has a song in the Hot 100. I wish I was kidding here. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has a song in the Hot 100. Yes, it's because of Moana, but it's still a little bit weird, I gotta be honest here. And here's the thing, Lin-Manuel Miranda wrote the song so that The Rock isn't expected to give a huge, grandiose performance so much as one that coasts on natural, self-assured charisma, and conveying that in song is markedly different than in voice or acting. And I'm not gonna say he nailed this. He doesn't precisely have a conventional singing voice, and he has the broad horns, the textured percussion, the bigger presentation. A singer with deeper gravitas could have held this a little bit better, and you can see that The Rock is struggling to nail some of those higher notes. Now, thankfully, he's got a lot of personality, and he's got the cadence down for the rapping pattern, but I'm not quite sure it's enough here. Still, it's alright, I guess. I've heard far worse Disney songs, but I've also heard far better, and there's a part of me that really wishes that Disney would go back to hiring trained voice actors instead of celebrities for this sort of thing. It makes songs like this turn out a little bit better. Just saying. Number 72, Ordinary Life by The Weeknd.
This ain't ordinary life. This ain't ordinary life. This ain't ordinary life. No ordinary life. This ain't ordinary life. This ain't ordinary life. This ain't ordinary life.
And now it's time for the Weeknd show, and we're starting with the lowest entry, and by far the best. Sure, the glossy synths, the hollow bass touch production with the sparse vocal fragments, this isn't exactly new for the Weeknd, but the details are what makes this song work, from his usage of his deeper range to the lyrics reflecting his own depression and damnation, even with this girl trying to pull him back towards the light as she blows him in the car. And really, if you're looking for a way to get saved, you can't ask for many better ways. In other words, it's not as good as the title track or False Alarm, but still really damn good. Definitely recommended, check this out. Number 71, Love to Lay by The Weeknd. Yeah, it's one one of the poppier cuts with the blocky synths and percussion, but the thicker, groovier synth and the sparse guitar in the hook does lead to one of the better hooks as The Weeknd muses on a girl who seems to have adopted his loose attitudes to sex to the point where even he had to learn the hard way to let her go. Again, this is not unfamiliar territory for The Weeknd, but again, it's the surprise in the hook that makes it stick, so yeah, otherwise like this. Decent song. Number 69, A Lonely Night by The Weeknd.
Baby girl, I loved you on a lonely night. Oh. It was the only time, and if I let you on, then I apologize.
Shame we gotta follow two good songs with a weaker album cut, with The Weeknd getting his Michael Jackson impression on as he deflects a girl's attention after sex, and he actually apologizes for leading her on. Okay, emotional growth aside, this is still a pretty underwhelming song. The low wiry synths, they've got a bit of groove against the hand clap, and the bridge has some sparking intensity off the thin rattle of the guitar, but it doesn't really hit that level to go any harder to really pay off that climax, so yeah, not bad, but not exactly good either, if I'm being honest. Number 68, Nothing Without You by The Weeknd.
Nothing without you. I've been nothing without you.
Oh boy, a song where The Weeknd actually admits his love for this girl, and make no mistake, it's still melodramatic, especially against a sparse mix with more hi-hats and pitch-shifted vocals than solid mix balance or intensity, most of which the thinner vocal production squashes flat. I appreciate the place of the song and the emotional arc of the album, but otherwise, pretty forgettable. Skip it. Number 67, Attention by The Weeknd.
You only notice it 'cause I'm never around. You're only looking for attention. You're only looking for attention. The only problem is you'll never get enough. You're only looking for attention.
Oh joy, it's the worst song off of Starboy. Full of these muted vocal crooning rejected from James Blake and another barren mix before we add on a tapping synth progression that seems to oscillate over levels of compression, nothing of which flatters The Weeknd's vocals, which feel flattened yet again, and that's before all the auto-tune crooning. And none of this helps the very sullen mood of the song, where The Weeknd berates a girl for wanting attention in a relationship where she was once so cool and collected. Lovely. Factor in the chipmunk vocal fragments on the final hook and you've got below average album filler at best. Skip it. Number 61, Stargirl Interlude by The Weeknd featuring Lana Del Rey.
My nails in the kitchen, scratching countertops, I was screaming. My back arched like a cat, my position couldn't stop, you were hitting.
You know, Lana Del Rey could have actually sounded good here if she actually stuck to her mid to low range over this song. It's the sparse guitar and hollowed groove. It's really that shrill squealing from her that kills this track for me, even if it is emblematic of The Weeknd nailing her from behind, even if he sounds pretty decent in his fragment before the song ends. Overall, while this could have been worse, it sure as hell could have been better too, so yeah, take it or leave it. Number 52, How Far I'll Go by Auli'l Cravalho.
No one knows how far it goes. If the wind in my sail on the sea stays behind me, one day I'll know. If I go, there's just no telling how far I'll go.
So this is that big song anchoring Moana, anchored with hints of pan flute and acoustic guitar that breaks into a surprisingly ragged violin for a few moments in the pre-chorus, before it drops into acoustic guitars for the hook. Sure, it adds in more strings and deeper backing vocals and a bit of bass for the swell on the hook, and Auli'l Cravalho has the swell and gravitas in her vocals to hold against Lin-Manuel's faster writing that indeed captures the emotional swell, but it's no let it go. And indeed, that's going to be the comparison that's made entirely too often in this case when it comes to modern Disney anthems. And this is coming from somebody who doesn't really love Let It Go either, as the poor man's Defying Gravity. The melodies and writing, they aren't the problem here. Hell, I'm a sucker for a great key change. I'm happy that's still here. But it's the arrangement and the production. It's hard to build tremendous swell and dramatic power off of an acoustic guitar line. The instrumentation just feels too breezy to me. It's a pretty damn good song, let me stress this. But in terms of Disney staples, I can't really see this matching up with my my favorites. Good, but definitely not great. Number 48, True Colors by The Weeknd.
Paint me a picture with your true colors. These are the questions of a new lover. True colors, true colors. Girl, come show me your true colors. Paint me a picture with your true colors. These are confessions of a new lover. True colors, true colors.
Okay, did you all want to hear The Weeknd work his way through a mid-90s boy band song complete with chimes, a sparse, scratchy beat, squealing vocal fragments, and a song where he tries to guilt-trip out the secrets about this girl's relationship history to ensure trust? And isn't this the exact same sort of thing that didn't work for Miley Cyrus when she then made Wrecking Ball in the aftermath? This track is not lower because I've got a fondness for that sort of time period in R&B and pop and production, but otherwise, no, not really for me. Number 47, Secrets by The Weeknd.
When you talk it, I hear the secrets that you keep. When you talk it in your sleep, I hear the secrets that you keep. When you talk it.
Yes, The Weeknd, I can see your interpolations extrapolated from the Romantics and Tears for Fears, and that faux British accent thing you're trying is a more ghostly mix of that wiry synth and cymbals pattern mirrored by long acoustic strums that after each hook builds into this murky swell that you would expect to build to more bombast and never does. I see all that, and yet for as much as this girl is keeping secrets about the guys that she's been with, I thought you didn't used to care all that much. And yes, I get the album's arc is that he very much does care now, but the framing of the song doesn't really get there. It's not a flattering look for him, especially when the song empties out into this very barren early 80s new wave inspired bridge that doesn't really work for me. And can you believe this was apparently planned as a country inspired song? Ugh, yikes. No idea how that would have turned out, but still, not really fond of it as it is. Number 46, All I Know by The Weeknd featuring Future. So now we get the song where The Weeknd is trying to smooth over his old reputation against some gothic swell and a bass-saturated, whirring, trap-touch beat that really didn't need to step in that direction. But really, it sounds this way because we've got Future on the song showing exactly why this girl should be a little bit unnerved still with this hookup, as he drops into your standard drug-addled and violence-prone verse. Coupled with cooing interludes that aren't nearly as atmospheric as I think they are, lazy rhyming, and the girl eating Future's dick like an edible. Yeah. No. Number 44, Rockin' by The Weeknd.
Yeah, we can just be rockin'. Yeah, I just want your body next to me, 'cause it brings me so much ecstasy. We can just be rockin'. Yeah, we can just be rockin'.
Okay, seriously, did anybody want to hear The Weeknd sing over this electronic house beat that would have been just ignored in the mid-90s about just dancing and not trying to spend your life with him? This is lyrically underwritten and recycled even by The Weeknd standards, and entirely too easy to just be kind of forgettable. Next, number 43, Die For You by The Weeknd.
Baby, I would die for you. Yeah. The distance and the time between us, it'll never change my mind. 'Cause baby, I would die for you. Baby, I would die for you. Yeah.
Okay, look, I was willing to give The Weeknd a bit of a pass when it comes to the whole Die For You confessions of love. The album is a naked melodrama. He's bound to overcompensate in his first major stab at real love. And when the girl's already hesitant to hook up with him amidst his own real feels or commitment, overcompensation, understandable. But at the same time, it's not a full pass here, as very stately synths, the pitch-shifted vocals, and the attempts at greater elegance shows that The Weeknd should at least have some knowledge that this could be very well be going too far in the other direction, especially when he says that he would kill for this girl. Again, you could kind of justify it within the context of the album, but otherwise, no, I can't really say I'm a fan of this. I'd probably skip it. Number 34, 6 Feet Under by The Weeknd featuring Future.
She get down, pop it for a check now.
6 feet under, 6 feet under, 6 feet under, 6 feet under, 6 feet under. She gon' kill me for the head. Not the type to fuck around.
So The Weeknd takes the one thing that mostly works about Low Life, that darker beat with the guitar and the eerie vibe, and then he flips it into a far better song, as he describes a sort of gold digger that would go to some pretty ghastly extremes in order to get all that paper. Shame the content feels pulled from both 6-inch and False Alarm, and even though good production can redeem a lot, it can't redeem Future's unwelcome presence on the hook. This could have been a great song, but it's merely just a good one for now. Number 21, Reminder by The Weeknd.
You know me, you know me. Every time you try to forget who I am, I'll be right there to remind you again. You know me, you know me.
Okay. It looks like this week is going to end up with Starboy some of its better songs, and Reminder is one of them, even though it's hard not to notice that he already did this with a little bit more distinctive lyrical flavor on Tell Your Friends last year, especially when the second verse just goes straight for hedonism and pushes away from the more wry commentary of the first verse, where he's not that teen choice, and yet how many people are still trying to hop on his sound. I will say that I'm not really wild about that off-key tone that runs through the song, or how he asserts that true fans already know everything that he's going to be saying in the second verse. So, okay, if we all know already, why not say something new with actual detail going forward? Again, it's a good tune, but it could have easily been a great one with a little bit more fully thought out lyrics and consistency. So, yeah, good, not great. And finally, number 27, Sidewalks by The Weeknd featuring Kendrick Lamar. Okay, first things first, yes, it's Kendrick Lamar's best verse in some time, and I really dig those sharper guitar tones right against the bass and the rougher drums. And hell, I don't even really mind the auto-tune on The Weeknd's vocals, even if it is kinda gratuitous. And yet, I'm not sure what it is, but I'm not as sucked in by this track as I would like to be. Maybe it's because they leave the filthier guitar leads midway to the back of the mix. Maybe because, again, it's retracing very similar ground to Tell Your Friends. Maybe because, while it's a good Kendrick verse, it's not really a great one. Overall, it is a strong album track, but there are definitely better ones if I'm being honest, and certainly a few better that deserve to come back higher on this list. But okay, that was our weekend. By the 9 hells that went long. And yet, best and worst this week, surprisingly easy. Worst goes to Attention by The Weeknd by being utterly insufferable, although Make Me Cry by Noah Cyrus and Labrinth is close for being a complete mess. The best, yeah, Ordinary Life by The Weeknd, it's gonna take it, but I'm giving honorable mention to How Far I'll Go by Auli'l Cravalho. It's a lesser Disney anthem, but it's still a Disney anthem and a solid one all the same that I did enjoy. Lin-Manuel Miranda's writing is indeed pretty good, and even with so much from The Weeknd, most of the entries here were pretty good overall. Maybe not as strong as the last 2 weeks, but that was a really strong start of the year. What would you expect? Let's hope that a lot of those great songs muscled off last week return up in the weeks ahead as The Weeknd drops off, but we'll see what happens then. Until then, I'm Mark, you're watching Billboard Breakdown on Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.